My name is Nancy. 15 years ago, I was abandoned by my husband, a painful experience from my past. However, now I am remarried and living a happy life. But one day, while shopping, I unexpectedly ran into my ex-husband. The last person I wanted to see approached me with a weary smile, accompanied by his wife and daughter.
Hey! Well, if it isn't Nancy.
Who's this?
The woman standing next to him seemed to be the mistress from back then.
She's my ex-wife. The woman I left all those years ago.
Oh, your ex-wife. The one who couldn't have kids.
She sneered at me as she said it. What a nasty smile she had. Well, it's been a while. That was 15 years ago.
Oh, yeah. Thanks to you, I'm happily living with your ex-husband now.
She laughed triumphantly. But despite her victory, they both looked tired. Besides, the clothes they wore were cheap. It's no wonder, considering Jason's salary. Even after 15 years, it seems their standard of living hasn't changed.
Did you remarry?
Oh, honey, don't ask her that. It's too cruel.
Is it?
Well, isn't it obvious? Just look at her clothes. They're quite nice. You can't buy things like that if you're married and just a housewife. It's only possible if you're living the single life.
Ah, I see. That's true. Especially if you have kids, you wouldn't be able to afford such nice clothes.
Exactly. All dolled up. And carrying branded items too. She's practically screaming, "I'm still single."
I see. You were very observant.
Of course, I'm a mother after all.
So, no remarriage, no kids. Huh? That's too bad.
Thank you for your concern, but regardless of what you think, I'm living a happy life.
Oh, putting on airs. I see.
Well, if she's satisfied buying whatever she wants while being single, then I suppose that's fine. I, on the other hand, have a real family now. Divorcing you was the best decision I ever made.
Oh, I'm glad to hear that. I also think divorcing you was the right choice.
You can say that all you want, but the fact that you've been alone ever since means no one else wanted to marry a defective person like you, doesn't it?
Yes, this man had always called me defective. Jason, who had wanted children, believed that as soon as we got married, we would have them. Of course, I thought the same. However, after 1 year, then 2, we still weren't blessed with a child. By the time the 3rd year rolled around, we started to worry, so I went to the hospital for a checkup. It turned out that there was nothing wrong with me. So, I suggested that my husband go to the hospital. But he refused to go.
Are you saying the problem is with me? The problem must be with you. Don't try to pin your issues on me.
We fought every day about the child we didn't have. Just go to the hospital once and get checked out. Maybe then something will change. Even though I said this many times, Jason refused to get tested. Exhausted, I consulted my mother-in-law. She then revealed that Jason had contracted mumps during his adolescence. Adolescent mumps can affect fertility, she said. Therefore, she firmly believed that Jason was the reason we couldn't have children. But even if that were true, I couldn't tell Jason. If I had results from a proper hospital examination, maybe, but telling him that without any tests would probably just lead to another fight. In the end, Jason only grew more convinced that I was the problem. My efforts were in vain, and he began to insult me daily. Was he dissatisfied with me because I couldn't have children, or was there another woman?
This marriage was a waste.
When he said that, I thought it might really be over. That reality hit when I found out that his mistress was pregnant.
My mistress is pregnant, so I'm leaving you.
One weekend, he came home late at night, spread the divorce papers in front of me, and said those words. "So, you were cheating after all." That was my only thought. I didn't feel sad, nor did I feel like I didn't want to part ways. I just felt like the inevitable had finally happened. That's how I remember it.
So, I really do have viable sperm. You were the one with the problem. I almost ended up being the bad guy. What a joke!
Was it really Jason's child? The thought crossed my mind, but maybe it was just that we were incompatible. So I didn't say anything. Okay. Let's get divorced. That was the last thing I said. Terrible memories. As the past flashed before my eyes, I felt a tightness in my chest. At that moment, Jason laughed and said,
Are you still struggling with infertility? But I guess it doesn't matter since you're single. My daughter is a genius and beautiful too. Just like I'd expect from my kid.
The daughter standing beside Jason didn't resemble him at all. She had a very pretty face. However, she looked displeased as she was introduced. Well, that makes sense. Jason is far from handsome. And he's definitely not smart. I looked at his wife, wondering if the girl resembled her, but only the mouth was similar. The rest was so heavily covered in makeup that it was hard to tell what was what. Needing that much makeup must mean she lacks confidence in herself. Inwardly, I couldn't help but laugh at the fact that he had chosen a woman like this. She looks like your wife around the mouth.
Right? People say she takes after her.
The daughter's face twisted slightly. Maybe she's at that age where she doesn't want to be told she looks like her parents, or maybe she truly despises them. Well, if you blatantly talk about how she was the mistress, how you cheated, and how you married her because she got pregnant, it's no wonder she might feel that way. So I decided to share my honest opinion. But she doesn't look like you, Jason. The daughter's eyes narrowed slightly, looking a bit pleased.
What? That's not true. She's the spitting image of me.
He seemed desperate to believe that she resembled him, but the daughter looked relieved to hear she didn't. His wife, on the other hand, looked somewhat anxious, showing a complicated expression.
She looks like me, doesn't she?
Of course. She's your daughter. There's no way she wouldn't resemble you. This woman is just jealous. Don't let her words get to you.
They say daughters who look like their fathers turn out beautiful, but since she doesn't resemble you, she must be pretty.
No way. She's beautiful because she takes after my wife. You're just bitter because I have kids, and you don't. That's why you're saying these things. How pathetic.
It seemed Jason thought I was speaking out of jealousy. Actually, I have a son who's in his 3rd year of junior high. I'll introduce you later.
What? That's impossible. You're kidding.
Jason looked around, not believing me. But there was no sign of the son I mentioned. He was probably off shopping somewhere at that moment. However, Jason, driven by frustration, brought up the past.
You really have a terrible personality. Back then, you made my life so miserable.
My bad personality made you miserable? I can't think of anything like that. I had never been told I had a bad personality, not 15 years ago and not now. So hearing him say that my personality caused him pain was something I couldn't ignore.
We never had kids, did we?
Kids?
Yeah, a woman who can't get pregnant is the worst.
Hold on. That's not personality. Did you really think infertility was a personality trait?
No! It's just a figure of speech.
In my youthful foolishness, I mistook this man's stupidity for charm and married him. Looking back, I realize how foolish I was. There were many conditions for marriage: kindness, consideration, shared values. But none of those applied, and I was simply intoxicated by his words of affection. And now... so this is how stupid he really was. I confirmed it once more. Right, as if anyone would actually think infertility was a personality trait, even someone like you.
Of course not.
The way you're panicking. It's as if you really did believe it.
You really are an idiot if you don't get something so simple.
I'm sorry for that. Even though I said sorry, I wasn't actually apologizing. But Jason seemed satisfied with my superficial words.
In other words, you're a defective woman who couldn't have kids. That's why I had such a hard time.
Right. You always said I was a useless woman because I couldn't have children.
That's why I ended up with her.
So you started seeing another woman because I couldn't have kids? That's news to me.
If you had been able to get pregnant, I wouldn't have cheated.
Jason, you're talking like it's some kind of achievement, but is it really okay to discuss your past in front of your daughter? This sounds like a secret about her birth.
It's fine. She's been raised knowing the truth since she was little. I don't believe in hiding the facts, and she has the right to know how she came into this world. Right?
That's right. It's important for her to know how much we loved each other, which is why we continued our relationship even when I was his mistress. That's something she needs to understand.
What kind of parenting is this? This isn't something you should tell a child going through puberty.
That's why we're honest with our daughter about everything.
Oh, I see. These foolish parents openly admitted their affair in front of their daughter, but at this point, there's no point in hiding it. I decided it was time to fight back. I was ready to settle old scores.
Man, being married to you was really tough. 3 years, and no kids. I got married because I wanted children. To me, a woman who can't have kids isn't worth touching, not even a real woman.
Exactly. Without kids, there's no joy in being a couple. They say children are the glue that holds a marriage together, and without them, it's hopeless. I got pregnant right away. And it was an easy birth too, so I'm top tier as a woman.
She was actually rating herself like she was some kind of product.
That's why you got dumped. I felt sorry for you back then, so I didn't say anything. But now I feel like a weight has been lifted from my heart. This is what I've wanted to tell you for the past 15 years.
So that's how you felt. Thanks for telling me. To be honest, I was pretty miserable too. I thought we'd have kids once we got married, but it never happened. I wanted to start fertility treatments, but you were too cowardly to even go to the hospital.
Who are you calling a coward?
You, Jason.
I'm not a coward. I didn't go because I knew it wasn't my problem.
Are you sure? If you weren't a coward, you would have gone to the hospital back then. And you even avoided getting vaccinations because you were scared of needles. Isn't that what we call a coward?
No! I'm not a coward. I didn't go because I knew I wasn't the problem. And look, I have a daughter to prove it. She's definitely my child.
Is that so?
What's that supposed to mean?
Even though she's definitely your daughter, I can't help but wonder why she doesn't look anything like you.
She does look like me. You just don't see it.
Well, I suppose you're right. She does have 2 eyes, 1 nose, and 1 mouth, just like you. But other than that, I can't find a single resemblance. It's almost like she was born with entirely different genes. And, honestly, that might be for the best.
Are you mocking me? You kept quiet about your test results back then, didn't you? You knew there was something wrong with you but didn't tell me.
What? What are you talking about? I don't know where you got that idea, but I was never told anything like that.
What?
Who told you that?
Who? Well, back then, Amy said it had to be true, that you wouldn't show me the diagnosis because you must have found out something was wrong with you. She said if it was your fault, of course, you wouldn't admit it.
Oh, so you fell for it. Hook, line, and sinker. You got caught in your former lover Amy's little trap, didn't you?
Trap?
No, that's not true. How dare you? I just said what I thought. I was only trying to help.
If you truly believe that, then it was just a misunderstanding on your part. It wasn't the truth. But from my perspective, it sure seems like Amy had a plan, and Jason fell right into it.
That's not true. It wasn't a scheme. Back then, he was so down about not having a child, so I just wanted to cheer him up.
I'm not sure how that was supposed to be uplifting. But whatever, I'm just glad I got out of that marriage, and I assume you feel the same way, right? And Amy, well, she got to take her rightful place as your wife, pregnant and all. So really, it all turned out well in the end. Thanks for that.
So, you weren't infertile.
No, not at all. The hospital told me there was nothing wrong with me. They said it was unclear unless you got tested. That infertility treatment is something both partners do together. I'm pretty sure I mentioned all that, but I guess you've forgotten over the past 15 years?
That's not true! I remember clearly. You were the one at fault.
Oh, is that so? I see, you still want to make me the villain. I guess that's easier for you. But when I talked to your mother, she mentioned you had mumps during puberty. That can affect fertility, you know. So, who really was the problem here?
That's not true.
Well, you only have one child, right? And for someone who loves kids as much as you, why just the one? Couldn't have another?
No, we decided one was enough.
Right, I'm sure that's it. Well, it seems you're doing fine financially. But do you know why your mother never pressured you for grandchildren?
What are you talking about?
She said she thought the issue was with you, so she felt too guilty to mention it.
That's a lie.
Believe what you want. But if you don't trust me, why not ask her yourself? Unless you're too afraid to hear the answer.
There's no way I was the problem. You're just trying to pin this on me. You're despicable. That's why I hated being with you. It's your fault I cheated.
Blaming others for your infidelity. Typical. Your wife stole another woman's husband. I just hope your daughter doesn't grow up to follow in your footsteps.
My daughter's a genius. I'm not worried about her at all.
Is that so?
I worked so hard, and you didn't do your part. That's why you couldn't get pregnant.
My part?
Yes. It's women who need to put in the effort. Men are sensitive, you know? If you just say, "Today's the day," it kills the mood. It's all about the atmosphere.
You're telling me you made an effort? Because I sure don't remember any of that.
What? It's because of women like you that things don't work out. I never imagined how happy I'd be after divorcing you.
I'm glad you're happy.
Unlike you, I'm not the pitiful one.
Oh, really?
My wife never forgets to wear makeup. I've never seen her without it.
Wait, what? Seriously?
Absolutely. She gets up before me to put on her makeup, and after her bath, she reapplies it before getting into bed. That's what I call effort.
Are you telling me you've never seen your wife's natural face?
Yes, it's a lady's decorum.
So, you're saying she's so unattractive that she can't even show her bare face?
Don't insult her! Look at our daughter! My wife is a beauty who takes care of herself. Unlike you, who goes outside without any makeup. Aren't you embarrassed?
Sigh. Look, I wear natural makeup. My face is perfectly presentable without layers of it. But if you're so worried, maybe you should buy your wife a mask. It would save on makeup costs.
You're nothing like her. Don't disrespect my wife.
I'm not. I'm just amazed that you've never seen her real face.
Shut up! Since divorcing you, I've been blessed with a child.
That's not right. You divorced me because you had a child, not the other way around.
Whatever the case, the fact is, we had a child. And it's his child. When I told him I was pregnant, he was thrilled. If it wasn't his, he wouldn't have been so happy. But listening to you now, it sounds like you're suggesting she's not his daughter.
She's insisting too much. Why is she so desperate to emphasize that the child is Jason's? That's between you two. It's not my place to comment on what Amy was up to 15 years ago. The statute of limitations has surely passed.
What?
Don't say anything unnecessary.
Unnecessary?
I didn't mean it like that. Just a figure of speech.
Well, it's good she didn't take after her father. Just then, I heard someone call me.
Mom!
And a tall young man stood beside me.
Wait, who's this?
Oh, can't you tell? This is my son. I mentioned earlier that I'd introduce him. He looks just like me, doesn't he? My son, John, he's 15.
The same age as my daughter?
Yes, well, I remarried shortly after we split.
Wait, what?
Ever since he was little, people could tell he was my child without an introduction. But with your daughter, people wouldn't know unless you told them. In our case, the resemblance is so strong that there's no need for that.
But you were infertile.
For the last time, I wasn't. If I were really infertile, I wouldn't have had a child so soon after getting married. And look at him. He's the spitting image of me. There's no doubt he's my child.
This can't be. So, you got married?
I've been saying that all along. He's the child we had right after we got married.
No way! So you're a housewife?
That's right, a housewife.
No way! But how do you have such expensive bags, clothes, and jewelry?
Oh, these? They're just everyday items.
What? How?
And you know, I have a daughter too. She's probably with her father right now.
Wait, 2 kids.
Yes, why is that so surprising?
Mom, who's this guy?
My son asked me, clearly confused. It made sense that he'd be curious. The difference in lifestyle between us and Jason was evident, even to a middle schooler. This is my ex-husband, the one I divorced a year before you were born.
Oh, the guy who couldn't have kids.
Yes, that's right. I'm surprised you know that. I never told you.
I overheard Dad talking about it.
Oh. I see.
Dad's asking if it's okay to make a reservation at a fancy restaurant.
Sure, that's fine.
A fancy restaurant?
Yes, for dinner tonight.
Ha! Even poor folks go to those sometimes.
Huh? My dad's the director of a general hospital. Of course, we go to fancy restaurants. You do too, don't you?
Well, yeah.
Hey, Mom, is that girl his daughter?
Yes, she is.
They look nothing alike. But since he can't have kids, she must be his wife's child from before.
Shoo, you shouldn't say that out loud. He believes she's his.
Okay. But hey, mister, you should really get a DNA test done. You never know. She could be someone else's kid.
Someone else's.
Honey! No, that's not true. I'd never do something like that. Don't listen to him.
Mom, Dad's waiting for us.
Right. Well then, Jason and Amy, I wish you both the best. With that, I left, but later I asked my son why he said those things. He told me he overheard them talking about me and decided to say something to protect me. He wants to be a doctor in the future, so he used his wits to say what he did. You really shouldn't have. But honestly, I couldn't help but feel a bit of satisfaction. About a month later, I got a call from Jason.
I couldn't stop thinking about it, so I did a DNA test.
Oh, you really went through with it?
Yeah, and it turns out there's a 99.9% chance she's not my child.
Wow, just as I thought.
When I asked my wife what was going on, she confessed that she was seeing another guy at the time too. She wasn't sure whose kid it was, but since I wanted a child so badly and was thrilled when she told me, she decided to pass the baby off as mine.
But what about the blood type?
She lied to me about that too.
Oh, so you just believed whatever she told you.
In the end, I was stuck raising another man's child, working my butt off for someone else's kid.
But you've raised her this far, so isn't she just like your own child?
That's not the point. I wanted a child with my own genes.
If she had your genes, she wouldn't have turned out so beautiful.
She said the same thing. That just makes it worse.
Well, what do you expect me to say?
And ever since she saw you, she's been tearing into me constantly.
Why's that?
She said she thought she had landed a great catch, but then she found out that my ex-wife remarried someone even better. Now she's mocking me for how little I earn, saying she drew the short straw.
Well, I can't say I'm surprised. It's a mystery why she ever thought you were a great catch. She probably just wanted someone to help raise the child since she couldn't do it alone.
What a woman! I've been putting up with being poor, and she has the nerve to blame it all on me.
It's just karma for what you did to me 15 years ago.
So, what am I supposed to do? Can I get any compensation? You probably know people who could help, right?
Why don't you look into it?
I have, but I can't figure it out.
You've never been the sharpest tool in the shed.
Come on! Help me out!
Not my problem. With that, I hung up the phone, feeling a sense of satisfaction. Later, I heard that my ex-husband, Jason, couldn't bear his wife's betrayal and decided to divorce her. His wife, shocked that I had remarried a high-income man, agreed to the divorce, hoping to remarry herself. However, despite the DNA test proving he wasn't the biological father, the law required him to continue paying child support until the daughter finished college, as she was considered a child of the marriage. On top of that, he had to split his assets, leaving him with much less than he'd expected. Jason seemed to think that, since he had raised the child, he should be reimbursed for the child support he had paid, but that was never going to happen. He even called me to tell me about the divorce, complaining about how unfair it was.
Why do I have to keep paying child support for a kid that's not even mine, after all the effort I put into raising her?
That was Jason's stance. However, he also said he didn't regret getting divorced. I couldn't trust my wife anymore, and the thought of continuing to raise a child that wasn't mine convinced me that divorce was the right choice. However, more than 10 years later, I heard that the daughter had become a doctor. Given how much Jason used to brag about how brilliant she was, I thought he would be thrilled by her success. But instead, all he did was lament about how he had scrimped and saved to pay for her upbringing.
Now, my daughter and that woman will live a wealthy life, while all I did was pay money and get nothing in return.
Jason's expenses for college and other costs had drained his already limited income, to the point where he couldn't even afford proper meals. As a result, his health deteriorated, and he ended up in the hospital. Ironically, it was the very hospital managed by my husband. With no one to accompany him and no family to visit, Jason was left to endure a lonely and pitiful existence in the hospital. Meanwhile, as for me, my son now works at my husband's hospital, and everything is going smoothly. As my husband and I grow older and begin to think about retirement, we're considering a peaceful life in a place surrounded by greenery. How was today's story? Please don't forget to subscribe to the channel. I'll see you in the next video.